So I remember actually auditioning for Girls, and I remember reading the script and not understanding it, but still
There was
showing
nothing
up
to
for the
understand.
audition. And obviously I did not go to Poland with Girls, but you had approached me about doing choreography. And so I wasn't planning on being in Vinegar Tom. I was planning on just choreographing the show, and then as auditions were happening, Dr. Shrine said, "Why don't you, Teresa, audition?" And then I did, and I was so glad. It was
such a
really
cohesive show.
But I do remember meeting with Paul. Paul was so great. I mean, he wrote all the music and worked with us individually. And I too was an actress and a dancer, and still working on dropping my voice from always breathing up so high in my chest. And was very nervous about singing, and I felt like Shayla and Surin were very good about singing, so I got my chops underneath me. I was practicing all the time on my own, and Paul gave me my accolades to make me feel more confident. But we showed up in Poland, and we were all jet lagged and drinking too much and not getting enough sleep, and we did a run through, and I just remember singing these high notes and cracking. Like I couldn't get where I needed to go vocally. And Paul was angry because he knew we were all drinking and having too much fun and not taking care of our voices.
You all were. I had no idea this was going on.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, all the singing came through when we actually did the show.
We had what, a week?
But it was
We
it was
didn't
a lot.
perform for a whole week.
We were
right?
the last
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, and they treated us like, and I remember Lynn saying
Royalty.
this before we went, he's like, "You're gonna be treated like rock stars."
Yeah.
And we were. I mean, it's one of the few experiences where I was like, "Am I Madonna?"
There's a solid chance you
Yeah.
I want to say something about what Teresa just said too, because as Shauna said earlier, we didn't have any injuries in our cast, well, during our time in Poland. Clearly there were before, but my journal, I looked at my journal and it is full of how sick I was. Like Teresa was touching on this. I think our whole cast, I mentioned, nobody has a voice. I'm really worried for the show. Like we were all just gone. And I wasn't partying as much as some of the other ones because I was too physically, I just crashed. And I'm talking, like I slept, everybody went to the banquet, the opening night, and I stayed in. I remember talking to locals, like desperately trying to get like a medicine that would help me get my voice back. I also have a lot of comments about flying in to Gdansk or into Poland in general and how filthy and polluted it was.
Yeah.
I wasn't used to that kind of air. There was piles of coal on the street. There was a little boy. I have like a picture, I wish I could have found it, of a like 4 or 5 year old child working with coal. And it's in my journal too. And I think that like there's just so, as far as like growth and having to like step up to the plate quickly and having to like overcome a bunch of like naive childish ideas and become a performer and a professional and try to figure out how to deliver in such a profoundly different climate was a really big experience for me. I mean, I was 20 when we did Vinegar Tom. I was 21 when we were in Poland. It was my first time overseas. It was a country in transition and a lot of new things that I was experiencing, and then the jet lag and all of that, figuring out how to navigate language barriers and meeting other people from other parts of the world, and then perform at the end to a sold-out show with people literally standing around the edges.
Packed.
Packed. Yeah, I'm so proud that we got it done. And our voices were there.
You mentioned that, Shayla, and I remember the same thing. I remember actually talking to the British company because we did all the workshops in the theater preceding the show, the performance, and I remember just coughing and gagging and not having a voice for most of the time that I was there because of the air quality, but also, I think her name was Susan, one of the British directors from 1994, Sue. She was like, well, these, here we are in a well-established theater and these drapes have never been cleaned. So there's dust too. So there was the pollution factor, And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I didn't remember that as a detail until you said it now, but it's like, we all choked on the air and didn't drink the water.
I was lucky enough to have gotten sick in the States. So, no, I seriously was on a 10-day antibiotic thing when we went. So when I got there, nobody told me not to drink the damn water.
Oh, no.
So I'm down there filling up a water bottle, in the bathroom and drinking it for like 3 days. Never got sick because I was already on antibiotics.
The Brits used the water to brush their teeth, and they all ended up out for the last 3 days of the festival.
Oh yeah, I brushed my teeth with that, and luckily I was on antibiotics. That's the only explanation. By the time I figured, or somebody told me, you're not supposed to brush your
This is
teeth
not
with that.
potable water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been using it for 3 days.
For the stage manager.
Oh yeah, I gotta tell that story. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the story. I actually made some notes the other day at work. I was like, I'm not gonna work, I'm gonna make notes. So one of the best stories we had was, I did a lot of work at Kingsbury Hall when I was in college. I did a lot of stage work. I was backstage for Jay Carlson. Jay was the guy that ran the hell out of that theater, back in the day. And all the touring shows would come in, and I'd go help load in and hang the lights, that sort of thing. And all the touring guys brought Jay a bottle of whiskey, okay? Every time, Jack Daniels. And then he'd put us to work, man, get out there and unload their truck and shit like that. So when we got there, I walked in, and the dude that ran that theater, who turned out to be a very famous lighting designer in Poland, like nationwide, looked like Jay Carlson's brother. I swear to God. And I went to Matt, the stage manager, and Dan, right?
Yeah.
The lighting guy. I said, hey, dudes, that's fucking Jay Carlson right there. I said, here's, $20. Go down and get him a bottle of Jack Daniels. Down this corner of the market. And sure enough, the youngsters did. I was 32, 33 or something, 34, I think, 33. And so to me, they were youngsters, they were 23. So down they went to the store. They came back and said, hey man, no Jack Daniels, but we got him a bottle of vodka. Big bottle. So we went up to him, and stage manager to director and guy said, hey man, we have a thing back in the States where we always bring a bottle to the guy that's running the show. And this guy, and they were all sitting around, all these burly dudes were just sitting there glaring at us. They hated us. And this guy that looked like Jay Carlson, he saw that bottle and he's like, his whole demeanor changed into happy, welcoming sunshine, man. And I think he hugged us, and I think Dan gave him a multi-tool or something, he was like, yeah, well, here's my multi-tool too. And man, he jumped on his boys and he said, get that stuff on it, man. And they went to town and that night at the bar, we had our private bar in there. I'd read in the tour books, don't drink with the Poles, man. Doesn't matter how badass you think you are in the States, you do not drink with Polish guys. And this is true. Luckily, I was with my wife, then wife at the time, and so Jay Carlson's brother and the boys were all there drinking vodka out of, tumblers, tumblers. And I said, hey, buy you boys a beer or something? They're like, no, we buy you a drink. This is our country. You're not buying any drinks here. So they brought me a tumbler full of vodka,
It
man.
looks like a glass of water.
Yeah.
A glass,
Yes,
full
a glass of water. And so I'm trying to drink with the boys, and I'm contrary to maybe my reputation, I'm a beer guy, right? I'm not a hard liquor man. And so I got about half that thing down, and I'm just like looking around for where can I pour this out? Because there's no way I'm gonna stick with these guys, This is the first part of the night. And so I got 3/4 of it gone, and I think I found a drinking fountain or something and got rid of it when they were not looking. And I said, oh man, thank you so much, but I gotta go dance with my wife. You know how ladies are, I gotta go dance with her. And I got myself out of the situation. Anyway, great guys, and they were so happy that we were not being butt heads to them,
I
love that story.
remember Paul having quite a bit too.
Where was I? I was totally.
You were doing like all the workshops and studying.
You were probably taking care of your voice, baby.
I was thinking, every, I don't know what I was thinking.
You were reading
I
a novel
missed
or
all
something.
the parties, the banquets, everything. I had
Well, we
no
had a
idea
private,
what
we had a
was going
private
on.
bar, it was not opened yet, remember, it was like a private club downstairs that was not opened until like 2 weeks later, and so we had it private, and we had that security do that
I had
big,
my wife with me.
yeah,
Well, you had your wife with you?
but that big, he was a fighter, like an MMA kind of guy, He was at the door, so he was our security, maybe because of what had happened to him. So they were having none of that. It was a private thing for just the students from all over Europe, and the baddest ass dude was at the door, and I kind of got to be friends with him, and, you know, we talked through Patrick, and man, he was scary. Like, you would not want to fight that guy. Yeah, and I think maybe that was a response to the nose break.
Well, that didn't happen on site, that happened at a bar around the
But
corner.
really, that's, the only place we ever went was to that private, because they had that for the festival. It was like for the festival.
So there was the restaurant downstairs.
Oh, yeah, in the.
I know.
And that's where we had all of
Lisa got
the
there.
opening and closing parties.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so
they had
that
us
dancing.
a private club, basically, that hadn't opened ever, it was gonna be open, so it was all refurbished and new. And, that's where everybody hung out after the shows every night, yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
safe,
we just used the
too.
restaurant downstairs.
Mhm. Anyway, that's that story.
Oh, Chops, you're on mute.
What was your, who spoke?
Holly.
Chops is
Chops.
on mute. He was trying to speak, but he was
What?
on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Because the Cockney Pub was an underground place, and it's still there, by the way, and I looked it up this week. There's a Confederate flag on the
Okay,
but it was a completely, yeah,
skinhead.
yeah. It's maybe even worse than it was 25 years ago.
It's a sickness going around. I also, you wrote in your notes.
Yeah.
Questions about what our experiences in Poland were. And I remember very vividly, one time I did venture out on my own because of the language barrier and all, and I ventured off to a cafe. I was probably looking for a really good coffee. Anyway, I went to this cafe, and there was someone there who had heard me speak and had figured out that I was somehow either English or American, and I remember it was during the mad cow disease
Oh,
that
my
we were there.
goodness.
That was in England, and this man came up and he was absolutely devastated. He looked at me and I didn't know whether he was going to attack me or what, but he said, "They killed thousands of cows in England. How can they kill all these cows? Some of them were healthy. All these cows," he was personally mourning all of those. And because I was speaking English, I was the one receiving that message. And I remembered, these people are really, attuned. We can get isolated in cities from this kind. You have that background, so you understand. But that kind of attachment to the animals and the farms and the products and it was so deeply felt.
My father had a cow named Puppy who used to follow him all around the farm. I'm not kidding.
Puppy.
Puppy.
I personally would like to say a few things about how impactful on the trajectory of my life that trip was to Poland. When our troop arrived and we landed in Gdańsk, we were shuttled off in different cars by kids from the university or volunteers. And the driver of the car I was in was named Patrick Zamorski. And as I sat in the front seat with him, and as he was driving and we're chatting, and I just looked at him and I was like, wow, you're gonna be in my life forever. Like, I just had this sense. And sure enough, I had a conversation with Patrick on WhatsApp today. I stayed on after the festival to travel. Actually, Shayla joined me for, like a week? And then I stayed on for another month or two and traveled Berlin, Czech
It's right
Republic.
there.
Love it. Traveled solo. But then I came back to Gdańsk and was hosted by Patrick. And he had different people lined up to host me for a night or two. And every minute of my day was taken up. They were taking me to pubs and out to lunches and different cafes to get my hair cut. And then I flew back to the States, and this was before internet
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
So Patrick and I stayed in touch with emails, and then eventually through internet, and when I was living in LA, he came and visited me. And then when I went on to have a career with Argentine Tango, and he was like, Teresa, you need to come to Warsaw, you're going to be a star. And so I went to Poland to spend time with Patrick, taught some workshops, and I went back with an American dance partner. We performed, taught workshops, and then I met a Polish dancer of tango, who's like at the time was one of the best in Eastern Europe. And then we collaborated. I moved my life to Warsaw, all the time maintaining a like best friend relationship with Patrick. And
From him, those postcards.
and in the meantime, Patrick and I have had ski trips together. He's come to visit me for my 40th. He's coming for my 50th. And rarely does a week go by where we're not in touch. But career-wise, that trip and that friendship led me to so many other career opportunities and life experiences. And I have to say, I've seen the changes in Poland all these years.
Yes.
Wow.
And
25 years.
I remember going out for dinner with our troupe, I'm sure Shayla remembers this, and we ordered pizza, which is a piece of dough with ketchup
Oh, I
and
ate pizza
canned
in Poland.
mushrooms, and that
Pizza
was
Alaska.
pizza. And
I was
we
so
had some really
confused.
interesting meals. But now when you go
That
to,
show? I can't tell.
But now when you go to
Back a little
Warsaw-
higher, Back a little.
now when you go to Warsaw, it's such a vibrant city. And Gdansk, I've been back to Gdansk many times. In many ways, it's the same, but it's bigger and more vibrant, and the caliber of the cuisine, and people smile. And having lived in Poland for, I was actually living there for a year when I was dancing with Piotr. I'm an American, like I walk in the room and I want to smile at people and I'm like, what are you about? Like, do you want to know about me? Because I want to know about you.
Yeah.
And that's not the Polish culture. I learned a lot on that that's actually a threat for them. You know, the breaking in is tough, but once you break through, they bring you all the way in.
That's
and
very
make
similar to
you-
the French.
And make you family.
So Patrick story, when you're done, I got
Okay.
Patrick's story.
I just want to touch on too, I very diligently studied the Polish language, which is listed as one of the top 7 most difficult languages to learn. It's very hard. I remember, like, when I go back to Poland, my survival basics come in, you know, to ask for things. But I want to say my favorite line that I'll always remember, which is, Czy pan chciałby czegoś napić ze mną dzisiaj wieczorem? Which means, would you like to have a glass of wine with me tonight?
The important.
And that has suited me very well. But yeah, Poland has changed a lot, but it's a magical country, and has been a huge part of my life, and the people there have been a huge part of my life. It's all because of you.
Yeah.
It's all because of you.
Yeah.
Blame my great-grandfather. My grandfather, all of those people who decided to come to America instead. But also, you said that you met the Foo Fighters
Oh, Dan.
Dan.
lighting designer.
Dan.
Dan and I met up in
That's
Budapest.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our Dan.
That's
That's Dan Hadley.
Yeah, Dan Hadley, I don't know why I said Levy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan Hadley.
Dan Headley is the Foo Fighters lighting designer.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
formerly Weezer, and also Brian Setzer. And same thing, Dan and I have maintained a friendship for a lot of years. Driving
Yeah, he
the-
came to see a play I produced a few years ago.
Great. Yeah.
Oh, where
Yeah.
was that?
Oh, it was Kurt Vonnegut, Sirens of Titan at a local theater here. And he and Rory Kozel came out, and I hadn't seen either of them for years. It was really good to see them both.
Great stuff.
Dan the man, he's great.
That's wonderful.
And his career is exceedingly international. Like, he's just always on the
Yeah.
road, traveling around the world. So the last time I saw Dan was actually in Budapest. I was in Poland on a painting retreat and then traveling, and we're like, let's get to Budapest. So I saw the Foo Fighters, and we went to the baths, so we went to the baths together. And actually, I had horrible food poisoning from the night before, so I was a little sick. But yeah, I mean, really magical, like lifelong relationships, which is why this is so special. For it to be, you know, what is it, 25 years?
Yeah.
26, 20, yeah.
Well, 26 for us.
26
Yeah,
for
we
you,
were
25
nineteen
for us.
We
ninety-six.
were 94.
96, 94, 95, and 96.
So just running
The
back to
first run of
Patrick real
Vinegar
quick.
Tom, oh, sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
just want to interject really quick. The first run of Vinegar Tom closed October 22nd, 95.
Oh, wow,
That's right.
okay.
We did that.
Oh, today.
Today?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Today.
Holy cow!
Amazing.
I did not realize that. I didn't even think about that.
You were gonna tell your
Anyway, Patrick,
story.
yeah, just last story about Patrick.
That was another thing. Vinegar Tom was
I
a
will.
script that I carried around for 17 years.
Oh, man.
Looking for an opportunity because, of course, one, I didn't have the music because there wasn't any, and I didn't have the choreography. And it wasn't actually until I saw the performance in October of 1995 that I began to try to get people to go to Poland in the spring because there's such a gap in there. You know, I mean, you're gonna have 5 months or so, and then you're gonna go to a country where you've never been, and I didn't know if we'd be actually able to pull it off. We did, didn't we? We were there.
Seems like we got photos.
Yeah, we got pictures, yeah.
But anyway, going back to Patrick and the hard exterior of these people and the soft interior of these people.
Yeah.
So my then wife and I went to Sweden for a couple days, where my grandfather's from,
You changed your name.
and changed my name to the correct spelling, and then I didn't do it then, but came back to Poland for a few days before we flew out, and we saw Patrick. Patrick also took us in, and he took us to Easter dinner at his family's
Wow.
apartment. And so you walk up to this building, and it's the bleakest Soviet era
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
of all time. And we're like, oh my God, where are we going? The prison, you know? And we go in there, and the door opens, and this beautiful lighting is in there, candles. The sweetest people on the planet are inside, and exactly, it's a perfect metaphor for what you were saying. So scary on the outside, but man,
That's
once you
beautiful
pierce that,
inside.
and they brought us in there, and we had Easter dinner with Patrick's
With
family.
the white sausage and the zig, and they
yeah.
take the sausage in a little basket to the church to be blessed. Like, it's
It's-
incredible.
They take it very seriously.
Their
let's put it
Easter's a
that way.
bigger deal than Christmas.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, yeah.
And we tried to actually make arrangements for Patrick to come live with us and go to the University of Utah. Because,
Oh.
yeah, Gay and I, we had a house kind of in Sugar House, and we're like, dude, you should come, you can stay with us, and you can go to college. We tried, I mean, we went through a couple of times, those are all his postcards.
We did that with Carolina Wenzel. She,
Yes,
she lived with us for a year and went to school.
Yeah, we tried.
She actually just went wherever she wanted to go. She went to the university, she went to high school, whatever, and she just would sit there. Mhm. And so on and so forth, and she lived in our house.
Wow, how cool.
Yeah, that was great.
Well, I just want to say one quick thing about how important the experience was going to Poland. My father was born in Poland,
Absolutely.
and I grew up with Polish grandparents in the house my entire childhood. Of course, my father's mother got the family out in the mid-60s when the Iron Curtain was still down, and it was, we're leaving tonight, we're leaving the dog, we're getting on the train, we're going. And he was terrified to go back because he didn't have any idea how he had gotten out. His mother was clammy about it because I think it was sketchy. But because of what Poland was when he left it, he refused to teach us Polish as kids, which is one of my great regrets in life. Though, because I had lived in this household with Polish being spoken, I could understand a fair amount. So I could get around once we were there. But I've been to Poland once in my life, which is the birthplace of my father, and it was this trip.
Wow.
And
I
it was
remember-
truly yeah, it is my one and only trip so far to Poland, and it was very, very important to me.
I remember walking down the street with you, Annie, and having people say, oh, but you're Polish. Just looking
Yeah.
at your face and being, you belong here. You are one of us.
Yeah,
And
Shauna,
accept-
I have a vivid memory of sitting on a bus and just looking at people and thinking, I look Polish.
You know what though? Your skin was much better. Everybody, do you remember everybody had like large growths.
It's that, it was that yucky
It was
air.
the air, yeah,
Not the
but, I mean,
water.
it was all of it. It just, you know, the environment wasn't conducive to
Right.
beautiful skin, so you fit in except.
I was a shinier version.
You're the idealized.
Yeah, but it continues to be like one of the great points of my life, being able to have that opportunity to go there.
Yeah, that, the trip for girls changed my life entirely. Entirely.
Yeah,
I went in '94, married to Richard Scott, and I went in '95, approaching marriage to Lynn. Because we were cast as husband and wife, and it stuck. Sure did.
That
He
was
has
the
an
next- the
uncanny
next summer.
ability,
Yeah.
uncanny ability.
And we
play
now
matchmaker?
have
Mm-hmm.
27 years of marriage and a son and a grandson together, so,
So great.
yeah, there's some profound changes.
So our,
I feel like every once in a while in life, something happens and it's just, all the points come together and it's just something magic, and I do think the trip to Gdańsk was that
I do too.
for a lot of us.
it was for us. I know we, two things. So I have a catchphrase from back then, not Polish, but German, because when we were going over the first time, we had a layover in Frankfurt. And so we stayed with Christiana's sister,
Yeah.
Martina.
Yeah.
She let us all crash on her floor of her apartment in Frankfurt because we had this overnight layover. And so Martina, then also on our way back, we stayed in Germany a little bit longer, and then we met her parents, who have been now, we call them our German family. And so we go to Germany every few years to visit them. We were just there recently, Moody and Seth, and so I'm terrible with languages, but I remember they gave us a German Stein, and Joss, you might remember this? Like the catchphrase was, okay,
Yeah.
okay, ich habe nicht Gewürz, hast du? So I didn't fart, did you? Yeah, which was so apropos for a bunch of people like sleeping on the floor all night together. But and so it became such a part of our life as well, because we really have kept in touch with our German family to this day, and we're part of their lives, their kids' lives, their grandkids' lives, and then my other big moment was when we went to Prague after, and we stayed in a house with a woman who was renting out rooms, and so she had gone through the whole, change, and it was new, and I asked her, and she let me.
Czech Republic. but
It was Czech Republic, and so she let me walk with her in the mornings, and I remember asking her, I said, what is the thing that makes you most nervous about this new? And she said, well, I'm worried about retirement, because at that time they were in their late 30s, and there was no longer this guaranteed retirement. And I said, well, what is it that makes you so excited? And she said, it's all worth it. It's all worth it because, and she had never been anywhere other than, but it was the books. It was the books. She said, my world has opened up so much because now I have access to actual real books from all. And so I remember that so distinctly, being able to be there at that time and be able to witness this person's face who lit up in terms of being freed by the kind of art and literature that she now had access to. So those were the two most poignant kind of.
I think we were lucky to be there at that time
Transition,
because,
yeah.
we were there,
Change.
Kid Flood was there in April of 95. It was, what, 4 years removed from the end of the Warsaw Pact and the dissolution of the Soviet Union. And when we came into Gdansk, it was all the people. Of course, we were hanging out with young theater students who were all fiercely proud of being Polish, and especially the ones from Gdansk, because that was the city of Solidarność. Solidarność.
Like Valencia's
And
house.
like us,
Yeah.
and like when
We
we
saw
were there,
Valencia's house, yeah.
like Lech Walesa was the president of Poland when we were there. The president of the Czech Republic was a playwright, Václav Havel, and all of the people that it was a young democracy after suffering for most of the 20th century.
And before.
And finally they were free, and the energy that I felt there in Gdansk was that of every day is a revolution, and we finally got it. The energy was so incredible, and you could see it in the art, you could see it there was street art everywhere. People were like, there's a playwright who's a president. We can affect change in the same way. Maybe I can be the president. And it was a fantastic feeling to be a part of.
This would probably be a really good thing to hear your story about you and Marilyn when you were in Fulbright Scholars in Poland, the role of theater at that time, which was very impressive.
It was very impressive, and one of the interesting things was, of course, that theater lost a lot of its prominence actually under the capitalists, because they were so used to writing and performing in metaphor, and as long as they used the right words, the government never bothered them at all.
So it was the medium of the revolution, underground.
Mm-hmm.
The medium of the revolution was, we're seeing the play, but we're hearing what's behind that,
Well,
what
in
it really means.
that production of Hamlet that I talked about, where you had this folk singer who was, everyone knew where he stood in relation to the government. He was playing Hamlet, and the king was being played by someone dressed in General Zarozacki's clothes. So, I mean, he looked like the head of the communist government. And that was the idea, and they were doing it, and of course, everybody's on Hamlet's side, let's face it. So that's the way that it was. But you know, in the Czech Republic once, Marilyn and I were having our usual discussion on the St. Charles Street Bridge, which is, the hotel is that way, no, it's that way. Okay? And this woman came along and she said, well, I hear a native speaker. And it turned out that her husband, well, that's a long story. The short story is this. We introduced ourselves, she introduced herself, and then she said, would that have any relationship to Shrine Road? And Shrine Road is actually named after my grandfather in Wisconsin. And it turned out that she had gone to college in Beloit, Wisconsin, and that's where the road starts and heads up through Rock County. And I wasn't born on it, but then we weren't part of the favored part of the family. We were one road over. But
Not Shrine Road.
I mean, to have somebody say that to me,
Wow.
it was like in Budapest once, standing eating a sausage in a park, and somebody comes up to me and says, is that like a Wisconsin sausage? I said, no, it's greasier. But, you know, I mean, the world is not as big as we might think.
The
will come there and it'll catch up with us.
We had a unique experience going into Gdansk 2 years running. And the first year we were there in '94, there was nothing on grocery store shelves. There was fresh bread from the bakeries, there were a few canned goods. And when I took $250 American into a bank, I got over 4 million zloty. Between '94 and '95, they chopped 6 zeros off the currency.
That's right.
And they issued coins for the first time in like 150 years. And so we went from being millionaires the first year we went, and breakfast was 30,000 zloty. To the next year, breakfast was 3 zloty. It was crazy to see that kind of progress within the short spans of 1 year. Grocery stores had more shelves. They didn't just have more stuff on the shelves, there were more products, there were more choices, there were more shelves in the grocery stores. So to watch that progress from having just been part of the, Eastern Bloc.
And everybody had a cell phone.
But
Yeah.
as you pointed out, the material progress moved forward and all, but there were things lost.
Yeah, you lose. This is what happens. It's part of the price that you pay. And we think, and I think that in the long run, it's kind of worth it. It's called evolution. And
Until climate change.
Steps forward, one step back, yes.
but a zloty is now 20. What is it?
Funny.
There it is.
Oh, right on. Nice, Sheila.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw the currency too.
But when I taught at the University of Gdansk, I was paid 4,220,000 zloty a month. And I was able to, it was one of the great periods of my life because I was on sabbatical from the University of Utah, which meant that they were paying me. And I was also had the governmental thing, the Fulbright, and they were paying me, and we were able to live, we were able to scrape by on 4 million zloty a month.
I spread it out on my bed and took a picture, because it's the one and only time I've been a millionaire.
And then we came home and we paid off the house.
Wow.
We paid off the house from the other 2 payments.
Wow, wow.
And I just
Brilliant.
want to thank the government for allowing me to cheat, because I was paid 3 times to do one thing.
That's not cheating, that's working the system, that's.
Karma. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You had to work your way there too,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Some people would say that was smart.
Yeah. I'm one of those
I
people.
was smart enough to actually use the money to pay off the house
Yeah.
rather than buy a boat.
It may be the only time an educator has been fully appreciated.
Fair enough.
With a real salary.
Given 1,000 times over.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, you gave so much for so many years, just because it's hard for me to even distinguish between the Greek shows and because we did a lot of Greek shows together.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, we did a number of them together.
Yeah, and you also did one with Maryland too.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
yes, and I did, yeah, so I have all of those memories, in terms of you and you always being just always so kind with us young people, because we were stupid. Clearly,
So
all the
kind.
stories, we were
So
so
kind.
stupid. And you were
The
just-
2 of us had a photograph up on the wall in PAB, I remember. And you were crying, I think it was Euripides, the Trojan women.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then I was behind, as
Oh,
the
yes.
guard and so on, so
Yes,
the mean guy.
I remember that photo.
Because I was the one who had to throw the baby.
Baby over the wall.
Oh, you brute!
Yeah, oh.
You know, the last time I saw him, he weighed 275 pounds.
Oh, what was his
Yeah,
name?
and he was a weightlifter.
Oh my gosh.
And I
that
thought,
cute
no,
boy.
you can do it with me.
What was his name? That-
I remember his father, and I can picture his father, but I can't picture his name. But those Greek shows were fun, especially the more traveling you got to do.
Yeah, when we got to go to Santa Fe.
Yeah, and
Santa Fe
I got
was.
to go to Athens.
Oh, you did?
Yes, in 2003, we did Oedipus at Colonus, which is the old blind Oedipus,
Right.
who curses everyone and they all die. But at any rate, what happened the next year then, we got to go play it down in the islands in Greece and also in an amphitheater in Athens. So this is the epitome of hubris, playing Oedipus in Athens.
Wow.
And somebody came up to me, because I had a mask when I was playing on stage, and someone came up to me afterwards, and we were having a meal outside and so on and so forth. And he said he didn't know who I was. He knew I was with the University of Utah. He said, I know that you have to work with students, but somebody should teach your Oedipus how to move like an old man. And I was 66 at the time.
How old do you need me to be? How old do you want me to look?
Okay, that's
And I
hilarious.
thought, maybe we should teach him how to move like a Greek hero, okay?
Very good. That's so
He was trying to help. So, it's